all about access to a property and a community in the 2024 Georgia Association of Realtors contracts. Hi, everybody. Dana Sparks, broker of Maximum One Greater Atlanta Realtors and the director of the Real Estate Academy of America. Here to talk just a little bit about how the Georgia Association of Realtors Forms Committee has addressed access to a property and all that that entails in the 2024 GAR contract package. So let's get into it. Thank you guys so much for watching. And this is addressed in a couple of different ways by GAR. The first thing has to do with all of this really amazing technology that we now have for our homes, ways of accessing our homes, ways of monitoring our homes, ways of taking care of things remotely if we are not in our homes. For example, you have all kinds of, we're familiar with the Ring doorbell and all of those apps. Well, there's also remote control of your garage door opener, of HVAC systems, of recording devices, of all kinds of things. So there's all sorts of smart technology, plus the traditional home monitoring by a security company and things like that. So there's all sorts of access to a property, to a home that has changed over the years with technology, where not only a homeowner has access remotely, but sometimes there are third parties that have access to a home. I mean, think of your Alexas and those types of devices. But so GAR has addressed that. And also, that I'm going to cover in today's tip is GAR has addressed that not only when a owner sells a house to a buyer, not only a consideration is not only access to the house in and of itself with keys and garage door openers, but there's also access to the community itself. For example, a gated community or a locked swimming pool, tennis courts, community pavilion, or things like that. So let me explain, let me go over in the 2024 GAR contract package where everything is. And so you guys know what to point out to your buyers and sellers. And let's just dive in, shall we? So the first thing I want to address is a brand new paragraph in the purchase and sale agreement called Devices and Fixtures. And this is under paragraph B4C, Devices and Fixtures. And let me just read it to you because it is a brand new paragraph. It says, okay, let me start off a little bit before that. Paragraph 4B is keys and openers. So this is all tied together. So keys and openers. At closing, seller shall provide buyer with all keys, door openers. That's been in there. What they've added for 2024, and you agents need to be aware of, is the additional part: fobs, access cards, codes, and other similar equipment, allowing access to the property, the community, and community amenities. In the event seller is required to return the above items to a third party, seller shall provide buyer with instructions on how to contact the third party to obtain such items. So again, not only access to the property itself, but to the community. Number one, sellers need to convey those fobs, key cards, codes to the buyer, but there are certain situations where a seller must turn those back into an HOA or they'll be charged for them. If that's the situation, the seller needs to let the buyer know how the buyer can then contact the HOA, management company, whatever, to get those items to access community amenities and sometimes even get in the community if it's a gated community. Now, devices and fixtures. Paragraph 4C, devices and fixture, B4C, except as set forth above. If a system, device, or fixture conveyed with the property cannot be operated without a specific controller, then not later than time of possession, seller shall provide the buyer with all controllers which are required for the operation of those devices. Seller will also provide buyer with all device credentials, including but not limited to usernames and passwords for all devices, including access and guest codes. Now, some sellers are like, I'm not giving you my login passwords because I use those same passwords. I'm going to use them in my new home. So if that's the situation, then the seller may reset devices to factory defaults and provide buyer with default credentials for all devices. Seller will terminate seller's administrative access and any access granted to a third party. The cost of transferring third-party support to these devices and confirming that the seller and or third-party administrative access is terminated is the responsibility of whom? Yes, the buyer. We are in Georgia is a caveat emptor state. That responsibility is the buyer's responsibility. Likewise, continuing on in the purchase and sale agreement under the brokerage relationship section, the disclaimer paragraph. So this is paragraph B10C disclaimer regarding the same issue. GAR has added the sentence that says, again, regarding devices and these third-party cool techie things, buyer and seller further acknowledge that brokers have no duty to ensure that the seller has terminated the seller's and or third parties administrative access to the devices. So that has to do with the technology things. And additionally, in the seller's property disclosure form, which is F301, seller's property disclosure statement exhibit, there is a new section under paragraph 5, systems and components, that states, it's subparagraph I, and it says, are there any remotely accessed thermostats, lighting systems, security cameras, video doorbells, locks, appliances, etc., servicing the property? So you agents, if a seller has filled yes to that question, then you need to have that discussion with your sellers and your buyers about terminating that access, transferring that access to the buyer at closing or at time of possession. That's just a clue that yes, there is something in the property that there is third-party administrative access. Additionally, in the temporary occupancy agreements, F219 is temporary occupancy agreement for the seller after closing, and F222 is the temporary occupancy agreement for the buyer prior to closing. There are paragraphs in those exhibits that also address the conveyance of not only access to the property itself with respect to doorbells and garage door openers, but additionally access to the community, gated, if it's a gated community, fobs, key cards, codes to access, for example, community pavilions, swimming pool, tennis courts, clubhouse, elevators, things like that. So those items have been addressed by the Georgia Association of Realtors Forms Committee for 2024. Now, another point of practice for you as an agent.
Point of practice.
It is always a good idea for you buyers agents to suggest to your buyers that when they close and take possession of a home, that they have the home rekeyed. So not only are these specific items addressed in the contract, but it's probably a good practice, again, to remind buyers that Who knows whom else the seller gave the key to or how many extra keys to the house they have. I've had keys copied and given out, and some neighbors, some very well trusted neighbors, have copies of keys and they need in case they need to get into the house or change the code on the garage door opener. If there's a code to open up the garage door opener, I've got keys buried to my house all over my front yard, have so forth and so on. So it is always a good idea to remind a buyer to have the house rekeyed in the interest of safety. Thank you guys so much for watching. Comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts, and please subscribe. Dana Sparks, broker of Maximum One Greater Atlanta Realtors, satisfying your needs with service, innovation, and education. Bye. If you like that video, check out the one here. If you like the content on this entire channel, please click here to subscribe. I try to take even the most complicated of real estate situations and make them crystal clear. See what I did there? Real estate made crystal clear. Thank you guys so much for watching.